A very, very, very good afternoon to all my new subscribers and to my current subscribers. Hopefully, everyone went silent earlier on for 2 minutes for Remembrance Day. Me and my missus went into town and done a bit of shopping, and we come across quite a few of the older veterans, and we got speaking to quite a few of the veterans, and yeah, it was interesting to hear their stories. They're the guys that actually fought for us. They're the guys they're the people what's like really give us a second chance, and they're the guys why we're here today. So we've got to take their hat off to them. They fought for our country, fought in the war, and I've got nothing for respect, nothing for respect for them. So thank you very much earlier. Thank you very much for everyone listening to my and watching my video earlier on. Well, anyway, today, guys. Sorry, yesterday I put a video onto my channel, and it was about prison and about drugs and bits and pieces like that. Well, in the comments, there's quite a few people what was commenting really good stuff, inspiring comments, and that's what gives me the inspiration to make these videos. Your comments, guys. So for those that are commenting and taking their time to tune into my videos, thank you very much indeed. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible, and I wouldn't be uploading content onto my channel. But thank you for giving me different direction of what way to go and what to talk about next and what subject to bring up. I like to bring everything to the table. I don't like to leave no stones unturned, and I'm using my bad experiences to help others not to follow my footsteps. So not for 1 minute do I ever glamorise crime or glamorise drugs or anything like that. So today I'm going to talk to you about drugs, what happens in prisons. If you go in prisons and you get caught up in that circle, you might not have been using heroin or smack or brown or anything like that on the outside. Your drug of choice could have been cocaine or anything like that, or ecstasy, or drink or weed or anything like that. But when you go beyond the door, what gets pushed in front of you by dealers on a daily basis is heroin. And to be honest with you, if you're a criminal and you're going into jail, you're that type of person where you don't mind taking chances in life, you don't mind dabbling, and that's the type of person you are. That's how you roll. So when you're in prison, you get to find out very quickly, who the dealers are and what deals they're doing, and everything else about it around it. So long term as prisons are bad for smack. Short, even like local jails, the Scrubs, the Ville, Wandsworth, every single jail you go to throughout up and down the country, there'll be drugs in. It was smack back then in the day when I done my bird, and a bit of puff. But the smack come in later on. So first of all it was puff, and the screws didn't used to really care, or if they caught you blatantly smoking a spliff, then you'd get a nicking and go down the seg and go in front of the governor. But they wasn't really that interested. And smack come into prisons because of the MDT, which is the mandatory drug testing treatment. And to be honest with you, cannabis stays in the system for 28 days at a time. So if you get a piss test and you get a positive, you're 99% of the time going to go on to closed visits, because that's where the screws think that you get your gear from on the visit. So they close you down, close your visits up, and take all your privileges away. And no one wants that. No one wanted that. So because of the MDTs come in, Brown come into the prisons around that time, which was probably in the late 80s or early 90s when the MDTs come in. I can't quite put my finger on when it was because I've done so much fucking bird that I can't remember, and I'm a bit brain dead. But yeah, that's when Brown come into prisons, and you know you'd be so surprised of who dabbles in brown in prisons. I'm talking about long-term prisons like Full Sutton, Long Larton, Frankland, Whitemoor, all the Cat A dispersal jails, the long-term BCAT training jails, Swaleside, Blunderston, Bullingdon, many more. And the most staunchest armed robbers at the top of their game, you know, they dabble too. And you'd never ever believe it just by looking at them. You'd never believe it. Some of them in their late 50s, early 60s, and they go behind the door and they have a bit of gear on the foil, and But yeah, so when you go to jail, what happens is obviously you're known by a few other people in there. Well, I was anyway. Every jail I went to, I knew someone, and it's the sociable accepted thing in prisons. Where it was then. Outside, you'd look down your nose at someone that took heroin, and you'd swerve them by all cost. But in prison, everyone's on the same category, everyone's on the same level, more like, and it's accepted. Heroin is sociably accepted in prisons. So what happens is you find out who the dealer is. You start off by getting one Joey off of him, and that's £10. So whatever way you can pay for it by means of canteen or anything like that, or ringing your people up, getting them to send the money in, that's what normally happens. But what 9 times out of 10, what normally happens is you find out who the dealer is, and like you ask him for a Joey just for a day out to have a bit of fun and to get you out of prison for the day. You had anyway, and it gives you a canteen sheet to fill in for £10, and you order all the stuff off the canteen and give him all your canteen. So what that means is you're going to go a week without no canteen, without no tobacco, without no toiletries, without no munchies, without anything, just for one silly little bit of heroin, which outside will probably be about 50p worth, and inside it's sold for £10. And it's that shit and it's that crap in there that you've actually got to put butter on the foil to make it run. So a lot of it just smears and burns. So yeah, it starts off just by just by having one Joey, just have a day out, maybe with a few of your mates in the cell with a bit of radio and things like that. And it quickly escalates because, where you're going without no canteen, you've got to have some means of getting your tobacco and getting the rest of your gear. So you need help, or you need to do something to sort yourself out. But that's normally what happens. You do every single canteen on it, and the dealers know exactly who to target and who's vulnerable. It's not a game to them. It's a way of life to dealers, and they study you, they watch you, and they know you probably They know you probably better than your own family know you. To be honest with you, because you're living amongst them for 24 hours a day in prison. So what happens is you start off by taking one bag, probably a week, and then on the second week you'll want 2 bags. On the third week you want 3 bags, and then in the end what happens is the dealer will always offer you 7 bags of heroin or 7 joeys for £50. And then what happens is you go on the phone to your people, you ask your people to contact the dealer's people, and for your people to send their people £50. Once that's done, the dealer will then phone his people up, ask if it's been confirmed. Once the money's in, you get the 7 joeys. The 7 joeys will probably last you for about an hour, because as I say, it's absolute shit. And it's rife, it's absolutely rife in prisons. Heroin was rife in prisons. Nowadays, I haven't been in prison since 2010. Thankfully, I've sorted myself out. This is why I'm putting this content on my channel, to deter anyone from following my footsteps, because I've had a life of hell in prison, and I couldn't stomach or neck another minute of it. So, yeah, that's what happens in there. And then in the end, you end up owing the dealer money, where you'll still take the joeys off of him, because you don't really think of the consequences. You don't think of your actions, or you don't think of what could happen. And 9 times out of 10, these vulnerable people will take this strap or take this barrel off of the dealer, will get so far into debt with him that the dealer is literally dangling a carrot in front of the inmate, and getting him to do things. So things like burning people's cells out, taking property out of people's cells, attacking people, stabbing people, So you can imagine the ripple effect and the knock-on effect it has. And, you know, it don't just happen in short-term jails. It happens in long-term jails too. So it's a very, very, very vicious circle. You very, very become addicted to the stuff. Although you're not having the right amount to get any addiction, it's what's in your head more than a physical withdrawal in prison. So you know, if you have one of them joeys, it's going to take you out of the prison system for a few hours. You might be in your cell, but you're in a cocoon. You're wrapped up in cotton wool, and you feel a nice warm glow around you. And them temptations are so hard for inmates. You know, this is why so many inmates come out and they go in without having any addictions, and they come out actually addicted to heroin, and that's the habit what they got in prison. That's exactly what happened to me. My drug outside was always cocaine and ecstasy, MDMA and things like that. I was never ever ever into downers or being like gouched out of my head. I've always been a full-on guy, in like not in your face, but you know, very talkative, motivational, inspiring, and it was never me. But you know, I actually come out on that long sentence with a habit, and I had to go straight into a program on the outside to get me off of it. So that's where I got my very first addiction, was in HMP Wormwood Scrubs back in the day, and it was pushed in front of me by dealers exactly the same way as I've just explained to you guys. Nowadays in prison, you've got like Spice, which is apparently 10 times worse. I've seen a few people on Spice outside, and they're just laying there like zombies, and you know, all bent up and twisted up. And I dread to think what it's like in prison today with Spice. I did speak to one of my friends recently, was finishing off a 5-year sentence in his Ford, and he told me that when he was in the locals on his sentence, that he'd see numerous inmates on Spice, and you know, they're doing the most evilest, maddest, craziest things you could ever dream of, and not thinking of the consequences, not thinking of the actions. You know, imagine going into jail, like doing like 18 months, getting on Spice, and then like doing something so stupid that it's going to get you like a 3 or 4 year sentence in jail. And it's a dangerous place these days with Spice, because you know, the dealers again are pushing it out the same as what they're pushing heroin out. But the difference between Spice and heroin is in prison is, back in the day, you didn't the sniffer dogs couldn't sniff Spice out, because obviously they don't know what's in it, so they don't know what to train the dogs for. Whereas with heroin, it's opiates. They train the dog for opiates, but with Spice, no one knows actually what's in it and what's put in it. So that's why so much is coming through the jails, probably still today, because the dogs are not sniffing it, you know, it comes in such a small little quantity, and it's worth so much money in prison today. You know, it's absolutely rife. But yeah, I just wanted to put this video out to you guys, just to let you know what happens in prison with drugs. And I've seen some really, really horrific things happen in prison, you know, down to drugs, drug debts. I've seen people getting hot fatted. I've seen people getting stabbed. You know, I've seen people getting like slashed down the face. I've got so many stories about that. I'm going to have to do another video about that. But yeah, guys, thank you everyone for tuning in to me and subscribing to me. I'll be uploading more content onto my channel again tomorrow, talking about a different topic. So thank you for giving me the direction of what to talk about today, and I wish everyone a peaceful day. Much respect. Take care. Please don't forget to share and subscribe to keep my channel alive. Much love. Peace.